Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Kinda Sorta Maybe Like a Podcast here on ShowbizMonkeys.com. I'm Paul Little, and I normally don't like to do these intro things. They're on some of them, but not all of our interviews and podcasts. But I'm going to do one now because the next guest that you're going to listen to, Pete Johansson, he called me back and I didn't quite start recording his part at the exact right time. And so it kind of jumps in. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that you were listening to a Pete Johansson podcast. The intro tag that we have during our intro isn't him because I didn't get a chance to ask him to record one. So you're going to hear the great Paul F. Tompkins introduce the show. But then I'm going to be talking with Pete Johansson. He is a great Canadian comic who has spent the last 7 or so years living in the UK. He's back in Canada, which we jump right into at the beginning. And he's coming to the Winnipeg Comedy Festival this week. So we're really excited to interview him on ShowbizMonkeys.com for the second time. I'm personally excited to catch him at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival this week. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy listening to this. Here we go.
Hello, this is Paul F. Tompkins, the famous comedian. You seem to have found yourself at ShowbizMonkeys.com. Sorry to blow your mind.
Around this town, I'm alright. Around this town, I'm alright. I mean, no consequence when you playing with the fire. Move to the left, man.
You've been living in the UK for quite a few years now. What prompted the move back to Canada?
I mean, I love the UK for what it offers. It's a compact, educated group of people that love to laugh and go out, but it's a hard place to live when you're used to the Canadian standard of living to a certain degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, the cynicism there is just too high. I mean, Canadians are cynical, but not like the British are cynical. Like, there's just, they're not, if you come up with any idea in Britain, you're told no 1,000,000 times first. Canada, you're told no about 5. and then people are like, oh well, maybe. So it's a more optimistic place, Canada. And when I thought about growing old, I didn't want to become like that. I wanted to be Canadian. Plus, with the new government, I feel like there's a wind, and it's Canada's moment right now. I think Canada's going through sort of a global spotlight where we're being looked at as an opportunity for positive transformation in the world. Mm-hmm. You know, we're like a country that's gone through self-help.
10 years of it, yeah.
Maybe we can do the same thing. So I kind of want to be a part of that. In Toronto, in particular, I've never lived in before, so I thought I'd start fresh in a city where I had to go out and hit the nose to the grindstone because I didn't want to rest on my laurels like I kind of would have in Vancouver.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure I was challenged, inspired, and back home. And I'm loving it. I just love it.
Well, yeah, you've been back for a few weeks so far. Although it's still pretty early. How has Toronto compared to some of the other places that you've lived?
Well, I've spent 7 years in Vancouver, 7 years in Los Angeles, 7 years in London. The first 3 weeks in Toronto are good. I enjoy it. The people are fantastic. The city, I'm still learning a lot about it. Like the subway's not as extensive as I'm used to.
Right. But coming from London, especially, yeah.
Yeah, I might actually have to buy a car, which is a terrifying thought. I haven't owned a car in like 8 years, so that'll be a weird thing. But I love it. I really the comedy here is great. There's so many comics and trying really unique, strong points of view. It's an inspiring place to be, and there's a lot of people with cross-border sort of perspectives with the U.S., which is nice. Like there's U.S. politics here, which I think is the funniest politics to observe, especially in comparison to our own, which there wasn't really a market for in the UK, and I'm quite well versed in that. So I find it's nice that I can revisit those as a topic. We're living next to the example of our bad decisions. Right. So it's a fun place to parody off of, and it's constantly in our forethought. I love it. I really love it here in Canada. I love it everywhere I go. Like I was just across the prairies. It was so nice. I couldn't believe how engaging, even going through a recession, how positive and upbeat the Canadians were, in Alberta and stuff like that. I ran into the Alberta, what's her name? The premier of Alberta?
Rachel Notley.
Yeah, I ran into her in Fort McMurray.
Oh.
And it was really interesting because she had like 6 bodyguards and like RCMP, and she was at a Starbucks, and I look typical, like rough and tumble, right out of bed in the morning. And I walked up to her, and like all the security just stepped forward immediately, like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I just, hey, I'm a big fan of yours. And she was like, what, here?
Like, don't worry, I'm not from here.
I'm not from here, from England. I might be your only friend in this place. But yeah, no, it's been an interesting. I love it back here. It's rediscovery.
So you mentioned being just right on the edge of the United States and being able to observe what was going on down there. I wanted to bring up this recent tweet of yours that got shared all over the place. You became kind of a popular meme.
Yeah, that was weird. Actually, I was in Edmonton. We were getting in the truck in the morning. I said that to Damon Schroeder, and then they all laughed in the car, going, "Hey, I'm going to write that as a tweet." And then I put it in my phone. And I put it up on my wall, and I didn't have phone reception for 24 hours. And I was looking at it, I was like, "What the hell?" Yeah, that went pretty global. The weird thing about that, I've had a couple of things go globally. My Tinder profile went huge last year too.
Yeah,
and but this one was very different because I started getting hate mail like crazy from the right wing.
Yeah, there's a lot of passion there for sure.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting. I spent a day. I didn't respond too much. I made a couple of quirky things, like stop being such a grumpy pants or something like light, to some of them. But I did spend a lot of time going through the profiles of the people that sent me the messages, and overwhelmingly racist profiles, that would have like a Southern Cross up on their wall, or would use the N-word in a negative, horrible way, and it was all racism. They're all racist. Like, it seems like all the Trump supporters are like, it just, in my own off the cuff thing, it's just disgusting. Yeah, really shocked by it all.
Yeah, I've noticed that too a little bit whenever I try to stop myself from going down the rabbit hole of comments and comment sections and things like that, but occasionally
it's like picking a scab. Like, it feels kind of good at first, but it's bad for you.
Yeah, there's this human curiosity, right, where I just want to know who these people really are, and almost overwhelmingly the same experiences with the hate mail you were getting. You go into their profiles and you look at who they are, and they've got so many similarities.
They all have about 80 to 115 followers too. Like, it's all in that real, like, weird, like, where did you get? You're not even at the human maximum for friends of 150. Like, you haven't even explored your own personal human limits yet.
Yeah, and they all use the Southern Cross somewhere, or the Confederate flag. And
amazingly prevalent, that image, I noticed. And if in your head you replace it with other images of hate, it's pretty shocking to think of how that wouldn't be accepted if you actually sort of, if these were swastikas, we'd be having a different, this would be a bigger issue. But it's basically the same thing it's representing.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed all the objectivism. If you can argue Obama's not the best president, and that's fine. There's a lot of reasons to argue that if you believe that. I think he's a great president, but all their arguments aren't on policy. They're all on race. It comes down to
either race or things that just don't make any sense and are clearly subversely about race.
Easily disprovable. Yeah. I mean, there's whenever I hear like one of a right way, and there are good conservatives out there. I have some in my family. I'm not a crazy liberal by any means. Liberals piss me off a lot too. I like to think of myself as a reasonableist. But when somebody confronts you with something interesting, like, he uses drones to extrajudicially execute people, and I'm like, oh, and that sometimes I've had right wingers say that to me, even though that was started by their president. Right. It's like, it is a valid argument. It's like, okay, yeah, well, you gotta listen to that. So I like to give everybody some credit. I talk about politics way too much, and I really want to just be kind of silly all the time, but I just get pulled in sometimes because I find it just so ridiculous.
Things that are ridiculous in the world make for good comedy, right?
Yeah, ultimately. But it's like, this is like, it's an entry level where we all see the ridiculousness, though. It's funner when one person goes, hey, look at this, and then we go, oh shit, he's right. But this is one where we're all going, we all know it's right, but we're all like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's a collective sort of observation, yeah.
We've all made the observation that the plane's crashing, but nobody's pulling up on the stick.
Right.
We're just writing tweets about the crash.
Yeah. Which, it's 2016. This is the world's
Yeah.
based around Twitter, so why not?
Exactly, I guess.
Well, I wanted to one more question I had about social media, because I've always wondered this about you, and wondered not why, because I totally understand why observing it, but it's interesting to me that you have 2 Twitter accounts.
Yeah, hey?
You have good Pete Johansson and evil Pete Johansson.
Yeah.
And this amuses me a lot.
The story behind it's actually a little less. It's one of somebody thinking I'm an idiot, basically. I started off with my evil Pete, or Scariest, which is what I've always used as my handle. And I went and did Joe Rogan's podcast in the LA, and we were there, and he was like, well, what's your Twitter? He'll tell everybody. I told him. He's like, that's the dumbest thing I've heard. Why don't you use your name? I go, I don't know. And then he looks up on the thing. He goes, it's available. Your name's available. You're not using your name. And so he created the Twitter account for me, and then he announced that one instead of mine. So then I ended up with, that day I got 2,000 followers from his show.
Right.
So I couldn't and I had 4 on my other one. So I was like, what do I do about this? And now I have 2 accounts. So it was formed out of Joe Rogan thinking I was an idiot. I like it.
As far as what you post on both of them, there does seem to be a slight difference.
Yeah. Everything stream of consciousness comes out of my Scariest evil one. Whereas I edit the ones that go on good Pete.
Right.
They're more tested, if you will. They've usually generally been a success on another platform of mine. Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say that then people should be following the evil Pete Johansson to get...
If you want, the stuff I say when I'm high, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense on the other one. I'm getting mad at a curtain. There's comedy in that. Yeah. I mean, at least I'm not drinking like I used to. But now I'm just high all the time.
There you go.
The tough thing about Canada is having access to such high quality cannabis. Treating my back pain, of course.
Right. So tough. Such a tough thing.
It is. It's weird because in the UK it was looked down upon aggressively. It's like UK is like visiting 1950s US when it comes to pot perception. Like, people have a real negative overall look at it while they're drunk.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, and they all drink their faces off. Like, the UK is a country of alcoholics, on a level that I've never seen before. And they're sitting there telling you have a problem because of weed. It's like, it's hard to take seriously. But they really, no country hates pot more, at least in the Western world, than the UK. If you tell somebody you're a pot smoker, they talk to you at work about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had no idea even.
Whereas they're all drunk at noon.
Right.
They're all having a meeting in a pub.
It seems like that might be reason enough to move.
I can't say I have any regrets about moving back to Canada. It's been wonderful.
The one thing about living in London that was convenient was you were fairly close to Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
And frequently did the Edinburgh Fringe over the last few years.
I'm still doing it. And I'm actually still commuting to the UK.
Okay.
I fly back and forth. That's the other reason I chose Toronto over Vancouver, because the flight's only 6 hours from here.
Oh, absolutely.
And Vancouver's 9.5, so it shaves 3.5 hours off that trip, which is really nice.
Can you talk a little bit about your Edinburgh experience in general?
Edinburgh's been an incredible, incredible festival. I wish we could elevate an open festival in Canada to that level. I love Just for Laughs, and I love Winnipeg, of course. We've got some great invite-only festivals. But the idea of allowing everybody to freely participate in a performance art festival like Edinburgh really does create something magical. And to rise to the top of that, it's a real amazing feeling. I had some early success there. I got nominated for a Perrier there, which is a real honor in the UK, and upped my status quite highly.
Oh, absolutely.
It's when you're there with 5,000 other performers all putting on shows, and it works every muscle of your performance ability, from your show muscle to your advertising muscle to your network muscle. It's a full thing. And also the duration of a month or 4 weeks it's a marathon.
Yeah.
everybody gets sick in the third week. Everybody gets depressed. Everybody goes through like ups and downs. You get reviewed like crazy. That's the other really cool thing is you get reviewed by major national newspapers like The Guardian and The Independent, like reputable sources, so that you get an introduction to a crossover mainstream, which is very difficult to find here in Canada. Like you'll get a mention in the newspaper here, maybe if you survive like a horrible disease, but if you're in a critical accident or something. But it's very difficult for stand-ups to get credible mainstream press in Canada, which I hope and I think is changing a little bit, because it is becoming a higher platform art, and people are realizing the complexity and the respect it should get. But it's a slow process for Canadians to accept that we have great comics here. Mm-hmm. I mean, usually when you see an article in the press here, it's usually about an American comic. And there should be more about us.
Right, or rarely about a Canadian comic who's done something cool in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like there should be more of a celebration. I mean, there's a reason why when I go to UK as a Canadian, people take me seriously, because our country produces such high quality performers. But all of us are frustrated here in this country. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to change that. And it's a lost art called respect.
Right.
And it's not for us individually. It's just for our practice. I mean, stand-up deserves respect. I mean, when you see the guy telling dirty jokes in the corner of the bar, it's easier to poo-poo. But when you watch so many comics that are approaching complex social issues and finding a way to bridge to people that wouldn't normally listen to topics, but when you engage somebody with laughter to make them sort of question their values and question whether their heart's in the right place. I mean, that's a powerful tool for societal change, and it should get respect, And to not see it treated that way with the mainstream media in Canada, it's a sad thing. But I also hopeful, and I see the next generation feeling more respect for stand-up. I think it's going to change for the better. So, not a negativist.
No, that's good. That's good, and I do hope the same too. Just as a personally, as a lover of comedy.
And in a society that's becoming more and more polarized politically, stand-up's one of those avenues where we can see people brought together again. And when we laugh at those differences, we can realize that those fractious sort of things that we think are unsurmountable, in our political arenas, between the conservatives, the liberals, and the NDP. If we can all sit in a room and laugh together, we can work a country together and not let it sort of get to the vitriolic level of the U.S.
Right.
So I have a lot of hope, and it's a fight against myopism that's being created through social media too, with the celebration of self. You have to celebrate somebody other than yourself in a comedy club.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, I have a lot of thoughts on that.
except for the comic on stage, who has to celebrate himself in a way.
That is a very difficult sort of razor to walk of narcissism.
Yeah.
And and solipsistic delusion, because I mean, you might think it's about you, but it really isn't. It's more, stand-up is so much about listening too, mm-hmm. like to the audience, and sort of feeling the waves of their uncomfort and sort of balancing that, while still bringing them to your message, whilst not offending them to the point where they leave.
Well, I think that's what the best stand-ups do, right? Is they follow that wave where it goes rather than try and crash into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, approach the wave at an angle rather, than capsize. Nice nautical reference, dude.
Thanks so much.
I didn't know somebody was going to bring up some serious yachting in this.
You never know what's going to happen.
And that's how you win the America's Cup of Comedy.
When you were comparing Edinburgh to the Canadian comedy festivals, I did start to think a little bit about the fringes in Canada, the fringe festivals. Now, I know the Canadian fringes are a bit different than how Edinburgh operates, but have you thought of jumping into that fray?
I do want to desperately jump into the fringes, especially since I have embraced the hour-long individual format so passionately. My problems with the fringe isn't the fringes yet, because I haven't actually dealt with them, but it's just what my friends who have.
Right.
That keep telling me that it's run by a lottery, and that you're not guaranteed times at a regular time. And
well, yeah, I think it depends on, each city has it set up a little bit differently, but like in Winnipeg, for instance, which I know more so than other places, right, there's the lottery, but then there's also, once the lottery's done, then you can bring your own venue, which means you arrange with a venue what you want to do, which I think is a little bit more what it's like in Edinburgh.
I think what I need to do is find a producer to take me through first. so I
Yes.
can learn the ropes. I haven't yet come across. I've only been here a couple of weeks. Maybe if somebody hears this, they can approach me. But yeah, no, I totally would love to explore the Canadian fringes, because I know the Edmonton Fringe and the Saskatoon Fringe I've heard wonderful things about.
Yeah, well, Winnipeg and Edmonton are both massive.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not that they're anywhere approaching Edinburgh, because Edinburgh is just so massive that nothing can approach it. But yeah, Winnipeg and Edmonton are both very, very large festivals. And you don't see, personally, I don't see as many comedians. There's obviously some that do it with a bit of regularity, but I don't see as many that I think could be doing it.
Right.
Because it's a captive audience, that you've got them for an hour. People tend to be very open to new things at fringes, and it seems perfect for, certainly a certain type of comedy.
Well, I'm going to run through sort of like, that's what my show, the Good People, is kind of a rough work through of what I want to do in Edinburgh. It's not, it's like I change and transition my shows all year long, so it's always in a state of flux. But it's basically that's kind of what I'm looking for, that whole idea of what it means to be a good person and why we try, and what's the point, and my own personal failings and evolution. And it's sort of it's something that everybody can kind of relate to. Like in our 20s, we always kind of cringe when we think about the bad shit we did, and can we correct for it as we age. But no, I don't know if it's the description's as funny as I want it to be. The quiet lull.
But I think for a an hour-long show like that, the description isn't necessarily supposed to be like overly ha-ha. It's supposed to be engaging and get you in.
Mm-hmm.
The other stuff you're doing while you're in Winnipeg is obviously most of the comics end up doing a gala. You're doing the Truth Bomb Gala, which I think the people that are on that, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
people like yourself and Simon King and Deanne Smith. Obviously, the way that the Comedy Fest is set up for those galas, you kind of submit your idea of a set beforehand and get notes and all that kind of thing. Are you excited for that? I know in the past you've talked about not necessarily loving those shorter sets versus a longer set, being able to get to know an audience. But
I'm a little, I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah, I've got a couple of great truth bomb lines in there, but I worry about the sacrificing of the overall theme, shortening it, of course.
Yeah,
and there's also a bit that takes quite a bit of cajoling to get people on board with, that I'm worried about such the short set that I'm actually still on the fence. I'm going to try it out for the rest of this week here in Toronto, and see if I can make it work in like 7 minutes. But if not, then I'm going to replace it. Just it's too risky to have it not work in front of that many people.
Yeah.
But I'll put it in my hour show if it doesn't work there, because it takes a build up of it's a comparison of responsibility when it comes to handguns.
Okay.
And I found, to be honest with you, I'm surprised by how little audiences care about talking about handguns in Canada, and that's probably because there's not a problem with it.
Right.
And I found the same in the UK, but I do like it's a good bit. Americans like it because they have to deal with the issue more implicitly.
Yeah, day to day.
But I just don't think it's an issue here in Canada, so I don't think it evokes the same type of passion. So if it does, I equate it to our sort of fear of feminism, and it's a surprising sort of truth bomb take. So I don't know, we'll see.
Okay, I guess like you said, if it's not in the gala, then it'll be in your hour long. So
yeah.
And you're also doing debaters while you're here.
Oh God, thanks for reminding me. I haven't written it yet.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I got to get on that.
I know you've done a few of those over the years.
Yeah.
And every comic that does it says it's just the most fun thing to do. Why do you keep coming back to it?
As I get more and more comfortable doing it, it becomes funner and funner. The first couple I didn't find were fun at all because I was so nervous. After that, I started working with people that were just about having fun and doing great stuff, and it's been every time since it's been just a wonderful experience of growth, and you get to work with different comics too that inspire you. Like this is the first time I get to work with Erica, who's been a friend of mine for 15, 20 years, and it's neat to be doing a debaters with her because she's so good at them too that it's going to be quite the challenge.
Well, yeah, she's one of the most experienced for sure.
Oh, is she? Oh, so they're putting me up against the big timers. Okay.
Yeah, she's done quite a lot. Yeah.
All right. gonna do a little research on her. I'm gonna take her down. Take her down. I don't care if I win. I actually I like losing. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially with, well, I think with comedy in general, but with the thing like the debaters, I mean, the end result are people enjoying it, not who wins, who loses, whatever.
I legendarily lost against Big Oil. Like, how bad a debate did I give when Big Oil wins against my point of view? But it's all in good fun.
Yeah, good thing it is, because you don't want to be known for that.
That's why I shouldn't run for politics. But also the team behind the debaters is so wonderful. Richard Side and Graham Clark are just wonderful people. And that's the same with the Winnipeg Fest. I mean, Laura Ray has done such an inspiring job of getting an eclectic group of comics together, from various diverse points of view to this fest. And so Stephen Sin and Dean Jenkinson, they're all such a great job. But it's a great festival showing a lot of different people.
ShowbizMonkeys.com